In the first video I showed the first steps in the restoration work of our small half-timbered house in Bolafingen, the digging of new foundations and the repairs of the masonry. The second video is about the work on the facade and the roof. The house, built around 1800, was plastered with cement around 1910. During this renovation, wattle and daub were removed from all the outer walls and the timber frame was filled with bricks. It was possible to deduce when this was done because we found stones there that obviously came from the demolition of the federal fortress of Ulm. It was stones that formed cornices on top of the fortress walls. During this work, the positions of windows were also changed and they sawed massively into the framework. By the way, you can already see in this photo that moisture from the ground is creeping up the walls. And because of the high diffusion resistance, moisture from the interior rooms also accumulated in the framework. Further down, the timbers began to rot. Further up there was a pest infestation. A second renovation of the house apparently aimed to expose the half-timbered structure. The removal of the plaster on the upper stories must have been disappointing. The beams were messed up, rotten, and nailed with many nails to hold the cement plaster. So it was decided to only indicate the beams with boards. We removed the plaster, the boards, and all of the brickwork. What remained was often not very much. But thanks to the logical structure of the timber frame, it was easy to restore the missing parts. To be economical, I did not use new wood for the repairs, but rather old beams from demolished houses nearby. I filled the compartments with insulation panels. Today I would choose the material very differently. I would use dense mineral fiber or Heraclit. I first applied flexible tile adhesive with fiberglass fabric to the panels. Then I plastered with lime cement plaster. This was a bit improvised, but it has lasted for 20 years now. The new windows were a real highlight. Beautiful old-style wooden windows made in a village nearby. Inside we painted the beams, repaired the lime plaster and painted the walls. The ceiling paneling had to be renewed and various installations had to be laid. Then the house was almost ready to move into. But only almost, because there still was no bathroom. Now the time had come for some big machines. I demolished the old toilet and pit. There was now a big hole in the house. A concrete floor was poured into it and the wall was rebuilt. On this occasion I used the historical cornice stones of the Ulm Renaissance fortress again as a cornice. This became the bathroom. The entrance door that was there before was no longer necessary because we had reopened the old front door facing the street. Now the house looked pretty good and we could move in. Some things were quite Spartan at the beginning, but that quickly improved. We had internet even before there was a modern toilet. And bathing was still done the old way for a while. To have more room for children, we wanted to restore the attic. First, the ugly main roof had to be renewed. The roof structure was very messed up and at the time had only been made with very thin beams. So the only solution was to tear it down completely. We opened the roof field by field, removed the old rafters and installed the new ones. I set the collar beams of the new pairs of rafters 16 centimeters higher than the old ones. The clear height in this attic had previously been only 1.75 meters. Since the higher collar beams no longer rest on the purlins, small spaces were necessary. Last but not least, we made a dormer that spanned 2 fields. We also celebrated a real topping out ceremony. It was a rainy summer and we had a lot of trouble with that. After erecting some rafters, we boarded the roof immediately and sealed it with foil. which was a difficult tinkering and not always successful. A legendary water inrush in the middle of a stormy night gave us wet feet in our bed. But when the roofing was finally on, here I needed the help of a company, all annoyances were soon forgotten. It looked really good now. In the years that followed, the house saw 3 toddlers who grew up quickly, and it had to be continuously adapted to meet the requirements. Finally, we renovated the attic of the northern roof so that we had enough space for 5 people and 2 cats. This was not easy, as initially there were no stairs and the connection with the main attic was very difficult due to different levels. But we finally solved these problems and in the end had a house that had been cleverly exploited down to the last square meter. We also made the garden cozy and suitable for children. However, at some point the house was too small for our growing children and we had to move to our larger house in Ulm. When we moved out, I had the opportunity to make a documentation of the house as a whole, which is what the next video will be about.